Well, many people have been challenged, to say it lightly, since the beginning of the pandemic. And I think many people have had to reinvent themselves and make massive career changes. This morning, motivational speaker and good friend of our show, Ricardo Gressel, aka Warrior Rick, joins us to talk about navigating career change and overcoming anxiety. Fear.
Those words, huh?
I've never seen fear in your eyes, but I've never seen it because you're just that kind of guy. Your cup overfloweth, which means you probably got to work harder than most to achieve that. So my first question, before we get into the forward thinking, is the past thinking. How are you? How have you been able to navigate this last year as the positive motivator that you are?
It is nice that you care.
I do, man.
And what's interesting is that you have to kind of stop with all of the play and the fluff, right?
Yeah,
because a lot of times people are saying, how are you doing? But it's drive-by greetings.
Yeah.
And I said, don't do drive-by greetings with me. If you want to know, stop, look me in the eye and ask me how I'm doing. So I appreciate you for that. I'm doing fabulous. I'm blessed and highly favored, strong and mighty. How's that?
Wow. I feel better. I had a stomach ache before. Now it's gone, dude. I feel amazing. No, that really is good to hear because a lot of people lean on you, and we're going to need to lean on you like we all need to lean on each other now more than we ever have before. Fear of the unknown. It's something that can actually even cripple us. Why is that? Why is anxiety and fear such a powerful force in our lives?
It's because we want comfort. We want the known because the known helps us to relax. It helps us to say, this is how it's done. This is how you do it. And my friend, for the last 14 months, how do you do it? How do you get along? You have to have faith. You got to believe that when you take that step out there that you're going to be on solid ground. And if the ground isn't solid, to your point, there'll be someone to put you on solid ground. So the unknown is exactly where you build your faith, a faith in yourself, a faith in your spirit, a faith in others. So faith becomes the driver now because you don't know what you're stepping out on, quite frankly.
And that's often where we do our most growth, is during those phases. You look back and it's often only in retrospect where you can say, wow, that's where I was and this is where I am right now. Maybe give us one practical tip. Support structure, you've mentioned, is something that's vitally important. We need those people around us. But if we are feeling that crippling weight of anxiety and fear, what do we need to do? What do we need to say to ourselves in that moment?
You know, I equate it with the air travel. And what I love about air travel is that there's this whole destination unknown sort of effect or theme. We think of pilots and we think, oh, pilots have it all together. They've got all this experience. But when they're looking through that cockpit window, they can't see their destination. They've got all the experience. They have the instruments. They've got the engineers that have built the plane and have made sure that it's safe. Their flight crew looking after people. But when they look through that window, they're seeing the same things we see. Clouds, sky, and an infinite sky. So what do they have to do? They've got to rely on their expertise. They've got everything they need. They've got enough hours of flying. But they also have to rely on the air traffic control, who are their eyes in the sky. They've also got to rely on the flight crew to keep everyone calm and keep people in touch. Because that's what a flight attendant does. It keeps you in touch with the human aspect, that socialization.
Keep everyone's masks on.
That too, right? That too. But it's that aspect of relying on other people that pilots do. And I think sometimes we think because of the uniform and because they're in the front that they're driving the entire process when there's so many people that have got their back. So once again, they've got vision. They can see that there is a destination. But even with a destination unknown, they know they can arrive because they can rely on others.
So maybe start looking at the people around you. Something I want you to start thinking about is the fear of failing. We've got another segment coming up here, and we're going to delve a little deeper into that. That's something that I know certainly prohibits me from so many of the things that I know could bring me joy, could help me level up. It's the failure thereof, and it stops us from even trying to do that thing. So we're going to broach that as well. If you've got any comments or questions relating to anxiety, yes, but most importantly, to changing career, to finding that career that you were meant to be doing right now, let us know on our Expresso Morning Show Facebook page.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
It is your feel-good breakfast show. This is Expresso on S3, and we're continuing our conversation that you heard a little earlier with Graham, and this is with motivational speaker and extraordinaire Ricardo Gressel, aka Warrior Rick, around how to navigate storms in our lives and career changes. And this is something big. We had to navigate this throughout 2020 and into 2021, but I want to pick up where Graham left off a little earlier, and you were just about to start a chat about fear of failing, which is one of the biggest barriers to success, because you know that there's something inside of you and you want to do something, but there's always that anxiety that you carry. What if it doesn't work out the way I planned? What if it doesn't work out at all? Why should I start if there's a likelihood of something not working out? And this is that fear that we carry. So how do we address that?
What if it does work out? That's actually the scarier part, if you think about it.
Right?
Yeah.
Because in failing, it's like falling, isn't it? I think it's, if you take the I out, just add an L. Let's just call it the fear of falling. Let's put two eaglets in a nest, right?
Yeah.
And they're in a comfortable nest. They've got the strong structure of twigs and branches. They've got the feathers on it. They ain't going nowhere. They're comfortable. They're relaxed. Mommy and daddy bringing them the worms. They got everything sorted, but they need to fly. But it's the fear of falling, but they've got wings. They have everything they need. We talked about in the last segment in terms of a pilot.
Yes.
We're still talking about flying in this because I really believe that that's where people need to get their heads right. To say, fly, regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what it feels like. Stop worrying about the falling. Think about what's going to happen when you're soaring and people can see you and you're vulnerable and you're exposed and they're going, you're singing. You're an actual singer. You can do it. Oh, I didn't realize I would be up here. That fear of failing is a sense of I'm gonna fall from the sky, and feeling that suspension and not feeling comfortable is, I think, what the issue is. Isn't it interesting how flying is the safest way to travel, but yet we feel safer in a car, on a bike, in a bus, or on a train? But it is that suspension that has got us in that fear because we've got nothing to hold on to, and yet we have everything.
I love that. I love how you said we already have everything. And if you think about it, everything we have, well, in order to be what we're going to be one day, we've already got everything within us. And I know that you are here to talk to us to be comfortable within the uncomfortable. But how do you get comfortable when it is awkward and you feel uncomfortable and you feel like, you know, you want to push through, but you have to just sit in that phase?
In this pandemic, I think what we found is that we miss each other. That, you know, even coming into the studio today, it's so rich and enlightening. Yay, it's good to be back.
I missed you.
I missed you guys. And I think, you know, it's because we're social creatures. So just as we talked about in the last segment, because we need each other, we need to help each other. We need to work with each other. Graham asked me genuinely, how you doing, Rick? He motivated the motivator. Why? Because he has that power to do it. So when we think about how we get through things, we need to have vision, a vision that says, I can get through this storm. There is a sun above the clouds that regardless of what it looks like here on the ground, perhaps in my circumstance, I need to retreat. I need to pull back from this dangerous anxiety, fear, doubt, pull back from it, close my eyes in that situation, breathe gracefully and deeply, and then look above the clouds with my vision and fly through it like an eagle. Don't be a swallow. Don't run away from change and from opportunity, because that's where our success comes from. Our success doesn't come from sitting on the couch and chilling, kicking our feet up and watching other people live their best lives. Our best lives are lived when we go through the storm, not when we run away from it.
Very powerful.
It is powerful. And you know, this pandemic has had an equal amount of power on all of us. You know, we've changed our lives and we've had to do it. It's not like something that you set out to do. So here's the big question. In this reflection in a pandemic, what type of reflection should we be actually looking at? What type of reframing of our circumstances outside should we be doing to construct something a bit more meaningful inside? Because it's been really tough looking at everything. No control. That suspension has been happening, and we haven't had any control over it. So, in reflecting, what type of opportunities do we have as human beings to grow from a pandemic?
The suspense, eh? I heard dun dun dun.
Did you hear that? I
Yeah.
actually also heard
Dun,
that.
dun,
I
dun.
heard that outside. I heard that.
No, it's the dot, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
Because that's where that sort of sound comes from. It is really about figuring out how you're going to get through it together, not alone. In a pandemic, you've been alone. It's been stay home, stay indoors, but we've had to use our own self-reflection, not depending on others who are so-called leaders.
Yes.
We are leaders in and of ourselves. In fact, we have joy. No one can steal joy. Happiness is a fleeting moment. So you get happiness when you see each other. Someone else tells you, hey, I like what you're wearing. I think you're cool. That brings you happiness. But your joy, no one can steal. In fact, they shouldn't even be creating more joy in you. You should create that joy. So you've got to use in that self-reflection the joy that you've been given to fight through the challenges of the pandemic, which means I'm ready for change. I'm ready for things to be different. I'm actually expecting more than before, because now I'm not going to sit on my laurels and I'm not going to expect things given to me as in happiness. I'm going to get the balance right between challenges and happiness so that I can get my bearings properly to go forward in joy and in peace. It's so beautiful just to have peace sometimes. And for me in the pandemic, I had to really just retract and be with my wife, be with my children, and not just stay at home, but to find home in myself, to find a peace in myself. So whether I went to the dam or the park, walk the dogs, or spend time with the kids with their homeschooling, I didn't have to be in a physical confine of home. I needed to find home within. And for me, that was the joy that no one could steal.
And that's something I think a lot of people have struggled with, was finding that peace during this pandemic because there was so much uncertainty. Well, Warrior Rick's not going anywhere. We have so much more we want to unpack, especially people that are experiencing some disappointment. We would love to know how you would perhaps motivate them and really just encourage them to see beyond the storm that they are in. But you are tuned into your Feel Good Breakfast show. Warrior Rick dropping some golden bombs on your Tuesday morning.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Welcome back as we continue a vitally important and what has been a very enlightening and inspiring conversation, and this is certainly the right time to have it. Earlier in the show, we spoke about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and dealing with the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, a fear that is prevalent now more than ever, understandably so. So we're continuing that conversation with our motivational speaker, good friend, and I'm going to call him, he's the eagle today. He's my eagle. Warrior Rick is here, man. I'm going to see you. That's every time I look at you now, I'm just going to hear like, caw. I love it.
Oh, Warrior Rick, you know, there are a lot of people that have faced disappointment over the last year and a half. People that had dreams to start their own businesses, families that wanted to move abroad or even buy a house. And then the pandemic changed so much for them, and there's so much disappointment going around. How would you be able to give them some motivation to just make them see past this moment?
I guess knowing that all things work together, right? They work together for some sort of good, some sort of end result that you're looking for. So disappointment is part of the process, right? It's just like we talked about trying and failing to get success. Sometimes it's not just you. Sometimes it's things out of your control. That's where disappointment comes from. It's not my fault. But yet I'm not able to make the move. I'm not able to change my career or do the things that I wanted to do. So it's really about sitting back and trying to understand how you can make it work for you. So if you didn't get to go and immigrate this year, perhaps it's for next year, or perhaps you need to stay a little bit longer to check out what you need to do here. But really advise yourself, really consider why you had to make a change based on things that were obviously out of your control. That's where disappointment comes from.
That's been the biggest thing, is there's no one to blame.
Yeah.
Who do you blame? It's not like you made a wrong bet, you invested in the wrong company. It's all out of our control. I absolutely love that. Boy, have we had time to think as well. We've had a mirror right up against our face. Now we know it's time. We know that that voice is there in the back of our head. It's time to make a career change. How do we know that this is the moment to act on it?
I think there's two ways to look at it, Graham. I think the obvious one is a toxic boss. If you have somebody you're working for that is, loves the title, loves to say, I'm your boss and you'll do it this way, it's time to move. So that's irrespective of a pandemic. And then there's the one where if you're ticking boxes, if you're working at a job as opposed to working in your career, if you're task-oriented versus considering your long-term goals, that's when you should really consider. So the toxic boss and then you ticking boxes and doing a job as opposed to doing your career, that's where it's a sure sign that it's time to get out. And think of it this way. We always talk about finding your why. Yeah. The why is a constant progression. It's not about perfection. It's just about the progress of continuing to search for who you are and who you are in that environment of your occupation and your profession.
See that trajectory, that long-term
Absolutely,
plan.
absolutely.
And having that vision. Now, Warrior Rick, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of our viewers watching now and be like, okay, maybe I need to get out of that situation with the toxic boss, or you're right, I'm just ticking boxes, I need to focus on my career. How can they start? Where do you begin if you are in that rut? How do you break that cycle?
And now fearful.
Yes, no, absolutely, absolutely. The first thing is to make time work on your side. So you're gonna have to take breaks. Don't consider intensity so much as consistency. Do things consistently, not even necessarily with your work, but even with just getting up in the morning, making your bed, looking after the house, being kind to someone. Do it consistently. Things start to work in your favor when you start putting that out into the universe. It's planting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So with whatever you have, you're a warehouse full of seeds, continue to plant that in the ground, even if you don't see fertile ground. When this pandemic started, I was planting seeds in the desert.
Yeah.
I had no idea where I was going to make an income, where I would work, how would I do events for mass gatherings. That was illegal. But planting seeds in the desert started to shoot through blades. Why? Because there were other people plowing, other people watering, other people looking out for my best interests. And that's what a second job can do. For example, if you're in a particular job and you want to get into a career, think of a side hustle. Think of something that can support what you're doing financially, but more importantly, how you can share your harvest. Because when you start winning, it's not just about you getting paid to feed yourself, it's about how you can give to other people. And that's how the universe works. As you start planting, other people plow, other people sow, but it's the harvest that we celebrate together, not as one person.
I love that. And once you tap into that momentum, that group momentum, then suddenly when you're not pushing, other people are pushing you forward. There is a reason why the bald eagle is a national treasure in America.
I love it. I love it.
I've been trying to listen to what you say the whole time. That's just been ringing in my head, man. You are amazing. Thank you so much. This
Graham.
is stuff
Thanks so
I
much.
needed to hear today. I know I've been joking that this whole session was about me. Maybe it was about me.
It's
today.
about us.
It's
about us.
buddy.
Ubuntu, my friend.
I have
Ubuntu.
no doubt that people out there who have been at that right moment as well needed to hear some of those gems, and it started that thought process in your own mind. So thanking you.
You're welcome.
So much. Good to see you again, and hopefully that's inspired you to make that change, to conquer that fear, or just to stop and think about it.